Alrighty, so let's do a little bit of a news of the week from the present. And yes, I have just returned to the future and the year 2025. And all I'll say about the future is that it's at least more positive than what we are dealing with right now, and that we don't have a shelter in home order, and that there actually is MLS game that is being played. And we also find out who won the 2025 MLS Cup and who was the champions of that season. But now, back to the present and talk about what has gone on in the last couple of days around MLS. Former FC Dallas defender Chris Richard is rumored to go to Arsenal and Chelsea, and when I read that rumor, I couldn't resist of actually laughing at this rumor, because there is no way this has to be true, and that this is just probably maybe an April Fool's kind of rumor, because there is no way in the world Chris Richard is going to Arsenal and Chelsea. In fact, there wasn't even any rumor of the fact that he was going to Arsenal and Chelsea. So I guess this was just kind of a good April Fool's kind of rumors to try to cheer everybody up. But, you know, for Chris Richard, obviously he is still with Bayern right now. I believe he currently playing with the reserve team for Bayern, but I'm assuming most likely once he play with that team for a couple of years, maybe he might be moving on to a lesser known club to kind of develop his career, because while it's great the fact that he joined a big club like Bayern in early of his career, you know, he needs to continue to develop, and that staying with Bayern is not going to be a club that will help you in terms of developing, and you're not even going to get any minutes of playing with the senior team. Now, Lucas Vasquez, the Real Madrid winger, has voiced his interest of joining MLS, although I have a feeling this won't happen for a couple of years, because Vasquez right now is 28 years old and he's pretty much at the prime of his career. So most likely he's going to be staying with Real Madrid for a couple of years. But he does say that he wants to come to MLS, and most likely whenever you have these kind of European star players that are joined with big club that have voiced their opinion of going to MLS once they get into their latter part of their career, most likely they're going to join either the Galaxy or LAFC or some of those bigger kind of MLS club that is known to really be kind of a start-chasing team and trying to get some of the biggest name to Europe to kind of just seize out their career for the last couple of years. So we'll see whether or not if that is going to be the case in a couple of years, or if it's going to be the case, the fact that he is thinking about coming to MLS once he finished with his career at Real Madrid. Now, the city of Toronto have banned all public events until June 30th, and this is a very big news in terms of how it actually kind of impact MLS very bigly, because MLS have said that they are looking to try to come back during May 10th, and that now the city of Toronto says that they are not going to allow any public events until June 30th, then there could be a problem in terms of MLS coming back early, and that, you know, unless if TFC decided to play all their game behind closed door, or the fact that TFC decided to just play all those road games until their city decided that the ban of all public events is over, then I'm not quite sure if exactly MLS is going to be coming back in May. I mean, I've been hearing a lot of people are being very skeptical of the fact that MLS is coming back in May, and for me, I'm trying to be optimistic and say that eventually it will come back, and that May 10th will actually be the time when MLS is going to resume their season. But obviously, with this whole coronavirus outbreak, and that it feels like every single day it just gets worse and worse, and I'm not talking about the news that they've been trying to feed us, but actually looking at the stats of the whole coronavirus case and the deaths that has happened around the world, it just feels like it's getting worse and worse every year, and that we are not only nowhere near of getting close to get everything back to normal, but we are right about to hit the worst part of this pandemic. So yeah, you know, I'm trying to be optimistic that eventually we will hit that peak in these next couple of weeks, and then it will kind of die down in a way where we could potentially see the season happening in May, but there is no guarantee that that is going to happen, and I won't be surprised if MLS is going to once again extend their suspension of the season, and that I have heard a lot of people say the earliest that MLS might start might not until June and July, and that's where it also brings a question of if the season decided to resume in July, what are they going to do in terms of the rest of the season? I mean, I know Darren Gabbert had been saying that he wants to have the remaining of the season to play in fall, which means that the entire 32 games will still be played for the remaining of the season, but it just gets to a point where if we decide to restart the season in July, there's no way you can play 32 games and expect to finish the season at the end of December. And that, again, I've been talking about this a lot, and I'm going to mention it again. I am very eager. I'm kind of more eager to see what are they going to do and how they're going to have each of these games once they resume the season than actually when is this pandemic going to be over, and that when exactly MLS is going to come back. Now, USL League 2 have said that they are still planning to play the 2020 season. USL League 2 alongside with League 1 are the two league, I believe, in the lower league of U.S. soccer that still haven't begun their season, as both of those leagues usually begin their season a little bit later. And I'm not surprised the fact that League 2 decided that they want to continue to play in 2020 because, like the NPSL, the League 2 season are only like about 2 to 3 months if you not include the playoffs, and if you even include the playoffs, at most the USL League 2 season only lasts about 4 months, so they can afford to push it back to maybe June or July and finish the season in November or so. But yeah, again, I'm not surprised the fact that they decided to do that, and that, as I mentioned last time, also with NPSL, again, I know they decided to cancel the season. Maybe it's because they're going to have like a fall season, and that they're just going to kind of play that fall season and just kind of ignore the summer season, since they can't really finish the summer season once everything resumed before it kind of overlaps with the fall season. But if that is not the case and that NPSL doesn't have a fall season, then it makes absolutely no sense why they decided to cancel their summer season when they do have enough time to try to make up during this summer month and able to finish the season before early November. Now, there is an unidentified Union player have been diagnosed with COVID-19, and I believe this is the first MLS player that has been diagnosed with COVID-19, and I won't be surprised this will be the last player that will be diagnosed with this virus. I mean, so far, I don't want to say I'm kind of surprised the fact that we haven't heard a lot of well-known name player around MLS that have been diagnosed with this disease. I mean, we've been hearing other leagues that we have heard players have been diagnosed with the disease, but there hasn't really been any other players around the league that have diagnosed with this virus, which is a good thing that of course is the case, but I won't be surprised we're going to hear more news of the fact that some of these players might be diagnosed with this, because this is a very contagious disease, and that, I guess, the fact that we haven't heard any news in terms of players getting this virus is kind of great. The fact that a lot of these players are actually following the orders of MLS and decide to stay home, and also decided to do the stay at home challenge along the way. Again, I'm not going to do the stay at home challenge for anyone that asks me, because I think it's stupid the fact that I'm gonna be juggling toilet paper with my feet, and I just basically wasted a toilet paper there when the supplies of toilet paper has already been diminished. Now, NYCFC, or actually, before we get to NYCFC, MLS have set to cut their employee salary by 25%, and before you kind of freak out and kind of bash that MLS is doing a wrong thing to decide to cut their employer salary by 25%, I don't think that is the case, and that I think you got to also realize that a lot of companies, not just MLS, have also decided to cut their employees, and that you should also be thankful the fact that MLS decided to not go even deeper in terms of just cutting their employee salary in the entire basis, or even let go of some of their employers during this pandemic. But it's great the fact that they still do care about their employees, and that even when we know that it is a time like this where they're going to have to cut some of their employee salaries, at least they're not doing it so much where most likely this could really affect some of their employees that is currently working for MLS. Now, NYCFC and the Yankees have pledged to pay $1.2 million relief funds to their employees. So another team that is kind of belong in the positive category of how to take care of their staff. Although technically, the Yankees kind of openly said that they, of course, decided to do that. And since NYCFC is partially owned by the Yankees, NYCFC basically going to have to do the same thing and pay for their employees for and kind of be part of the relief fund that they're going to be paying for their employees. But still, it's great to see that we are still seeing some teams that are caring for their staff, and that they are creating some relief funds so that they can, of course, pay their staff that unfortunately aren't working right now because of the season is being suspended. Now, before I finish the news of the week video, I am going to be doing kind of a little mini review of the Week 5 Simulator Resort. So I kind of thought about doing a little mini review for a while because, I do miss doing previews and reviews video, and that I probably won't be able to do those kind of video for a very long time. But the good news is, at least from what I saw last week in terms of the simulation resort, at least they gave us enough highlights where not only I can get the score line of each team, but I can also get the goal score of each of the team. And I hope, one day MLS will eventually not only just put up the score and the goal scored of each of these resorts, but actually do a highlights in terms of each of the games. So maybe then I can actually do a full review video of some of the simulation game that has happened. But in terms of Week 5, the Simulator Resort, we only had 3 games because technically Week 5 is the international break, and most of the team in MLS is not playing in the international break. But unfortunately, these 6 teams will have to play, and that if you were the home team throughout match week number 5, unfortunately you had a very rough week because all 3 road team was able to win in Week 5 of the Simulator Resort. And we start off with one of the bigger upsets of this week, which was RSL pulling off a 2-1 win against Sporting KC. And, SKC coming to this game, I believe they were still unbeaten, and that it looked like for sure that they were going to be able to handle RSL, that once again this season they're struggling to try to get some resort on the road. And it started well for them when Polito, who just cannot stop scoring goals right now, scored in the 25th minute to give SKC a 1-0 lead. But Corey Bear scored just 2 minutes before halftime to tie the game up at 1 apiece, and it seemed like that momentum that RSL had heading into the locker room carry into the second half, because in the second half, DeMar Krylak scored just a minute before the hour mark to give RSL a 2-1 lead, and they would hold on to that lead as they hand Sporting KC their first loss of the season. And this is definitely one of the most surprising result of this week, but you got to give credit to RSL by able to go to Children's Mercy Park, which this year it's been a very tough place to play, unlike last year, and able to knock down SKC and hand them their first loss of this season. Now, moving on into the next match is the Timbers. Boy, the Timbers are in trouble, and their home woes continue as they lost 3-1 against the Union in this game. Now, the Timbers, like SKC, got off to a good start and had the lead in the first half when Diego Valeri scored in the 35th minute. But then after that, the Timbers decided to do what they did against Nashville a couple of weeks ago, where they got an early lead at home, and then they just decided to pack it up and just kind of trying to absorb all sorts of pressure and maybe hold on for a 1-0 win at home. And I did say against Nashville that, they kind of got away with that because Nashville was a team that just cannot score goals, and they don't have lethal goal scored. If they decided to do that against any other team, yeah, they are going to be in deep trouble. And you definitely do not want to do that against this Union team that is another team that has been on a bit of a hot streak. And believe it or not, in the second half, yeah, that's when the Timbers find out that you just cannot do this kind of just score a goal early and then just kind of pack it in and hope that you can get all 3 points, because Philly absolutely blow Portland out of the water in the second half. And it started with Sergio Santos scoring in the 52nd minute to tie the game up at 1 apiece. Then he scored again in the 61st minute to give the Union a 2-1 lead before Brendan Aronson would pretty much shut the door on Portland and give the Union a 3-1 lead. And that is the final score of this game, as you know, the Union, another solid victory on the road. But for the Portland Timbers, again, their home woes continue, and I feel like if they continue to play like this, Giovanni Savarese is definitely going to be feeling the heat, and that I think some of the fans are already starting to get very restless. The fact that the poor home form that they had in the latter part of the second half of the season is continue heading into this first half of the season. But finally, in terms of Week 5 resort, we had the Red Bulls versus Orlando City, and this was another bit of an upset as Orlando City is able to win 1-0 against the Red Bulls. Although I wouldn't say this was as big of an upset as RSL versus Sporting KC, because the Red Bulls, while they have kind of started well to this season, they kind of have got a little bit lucky with some of the resort, and unfortunately their luck kind of ran out against Orlando City, a team that are destined to try to make the playoffs this year, and another guy that has been destined to try to prove fans wrong and that he is back into his form is Dom Dwyer, as he actually scored the only goal of this game in the 39th minute. And funny enough, Orlando City, they didn't had a lot of shots in this game, but yet they're able to pull out with a 1-0 victory, and that the Red Bulls actually outshot them by a lot. But then again, isn't that kind of what Orlando City was last year, where this was a team where, for whatever reason, when they have tons of shots in a game, they tend to lose that match. But when they don't have a lot of shot and they're giving minimum opportunity, they're able to take their chances and win the game. And that, you know, for Orlando City, hopefully that won't be always the case, and hopefully we won't see that trend like we did last year heading into this season. But, you know, at the end of the day, I don't think they're going to complain a lot about getting all 3 points, especially the fact that they want to finally be a team that actually will make the playoffs and end the longest playoff drought that any team has endured this season. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and also, did I say this season? I meant out of any other team right now in MLS. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and let me know in the comments below, what do you think of the news, and also some of the resort happened on week number 5 of the simulated resort, and if there's any news that I wasn't able to, or if there's any news that I missed and I didn't put on this board, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.